Hi, I'm Sharon Delgado. I'm here with Peter Galbraith and Billy Vogan. We're from the Occupy Nevada County Foreclosure Defense Group. We're going to be talking today about what's going on in Nevada County with foreclosures, with evictions, and focusing particularly on Billy's case. Billy has had her house foreclosed and is facing possible eviction, and our group is supporting her, trying to find creative ways to help in this situation, and we are highlighting what's going on that seems to us to be unethical and in many cases illegal about the foreclosure process in our county and in our state and in our country. So, Peter, we're doing a lot with different people who are in foreclosure and facing eviction in our county. What are some of the things that our group is doing?
The Foreclosure Defense Group, we're educating people about the process of foreclosure. People who are facing default or possibly default should contact us and we can help them understand the process. We have a foreclosure support and empowerment group that helps with people who are going through the process. We are attending and going to the court and helping people through the court process if they're facing eviction, going to meet the mediation process. And we're trying to educate the broader community. We're reaching out to the local governments to see if this local governments can help us with this crisis, and generally trying to get the word out and organizing to prevent and stop the foreclosures.
Yes. Billy, you're one of the people in our group that is going through this. Mm-hmm. How did you come to even be here in Nevada County with a home?
Well, my family moved here about 8 years ago. We were living in Sonoma County, and my husband works out of the home. So we were in a situation to buy a home. We saved for many years and decided to move to this area. We wanted a smaller area to raise our son. So we, as I said, saved and scrimped and came up with $100,000 to put down on our home. And the reason I say that is because I think there's some idea that many people that are being foreclosed on had got loans that they shouldn't have or couldn't afford the house, and there's so many cases that's not the case. So we bought this home about, like I said, 8 years ago, modest home, and been very happy raising our son here.
And what happened?
Well, in around about 2010, like many people, my husband's business was declining. We realized that we were in a situation where it might be hard to start keeping up with the mortgage payments. And around that time, you heard of loan modification programs that the banks were offering because we knew we wouldn't qualify to refinance. So we contacted our bank, Wells Fargo, and asked them about how to apply for a loan modification. We're told by several different sources that we should stop making our payments, that the only way to be considered for a loan modification was if you're not making your monthly mortgage payments. So that's what we decided to do. Kind of a scary thing to do, actually. We've been very reliable for many, many years and have excellent credit, but feeling like we're jumping up a cliff, we went ahead and stopped making our mortgage payments, seeing that was the only way that we would be considered for a loan modification.
So you said several different sources. Where were these sources? Were they friends, neighbors?
Well, as far as getting the advice to...
Yes.
No, we talk to different people at Wells Fargo, and this is the thing about this whole process, is that you often, they never will tell you who you're talking to, so you never really have a point contact person. And they do that purposely, I think. They don't want you to have a relationship with anyone. So basically, there's a loan office that you call. I mean, a pool of many, many people that I think are there answering phones, and again, telling us to just stop making payments. But I never did get a name of a person that told me this advice.
Right. Yes. I think the important part is people from Wells Fargo advised you to stop paying your mortgage.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so you did. And so then did you apply for a loan mod, and what did that involve?
Yes. So then you're told to, they send you an application, and there's lots of questions and lots of reasons why you need to qualify. They look at your income, of course, and just hundreds of documents. I mean, literally we spent 6 months of faxing documents to Wells Fargo, and the paperwork was just overwhelming, and constantly, no, we need this. And in the process, we would talk to different loan agents at Wells Fargo. They would say to us, gosh, you should be qualifying. I don't understand why you're not qualifying. Your income should support that you need the loan modification. You have enough income, but you also are in a situation where, you should be qualifying, and we don't know why you're not. And
so then, after 6 months, you went to a workshop that Wells Fargo offered in Sacramento.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
And what happened there?
Well, after many hours of waiting to talk to someone, we finally meet with a loan agent and face to face. That's what this workshop is all about. That they told us that we could meet face to face with agents, and so meeting with this loan officer, after about 10 minutes in the conversation, he tells us that, well, I'm sorry, but your loan is one that is a mortgage-backed security, and this kind of a loan, very rarely do they give you loan modifications. So my husband and I are sitting there thinking, well, after 6 months of sending hundreds of documents, why were we never told that there's no possibility of getting a loan modification on this loan? We felt, very upset. But the other thing I'll never forget thinking when I heard this was that I knew what a mortgage-backed security was. Because of us going through this, I was aware of this, never thinking that was going to apply to us. We had taken our loan out with Wells Fargo. They were my servicer, which means that's where I made the payments. So when I was aware of a mortgage-backed security and what that meant, because of a huge Massachusetts case, the Supreme Court ruled against mortgage-backed securities, and it was actually with Wells Fargo U.S. Bank. So because of that big case, I was sort of aware what that meant. And so sitting there, I thought to myself, well, I think that this means that they probably don't have the title on my home. And at this point, was, like I said, upset because after 6 months of not making payments, now we have jumped completely off the cliff, and it would be hard to catch up.
Yes. So we're going to talk just a little bit about mortgage-backed securities, because this is so key to what we're hearing about in our community, but also all over the country. And there are laws in place in some places, and we hope that'll come to California, where it's illegal for a bank to foreclose if they don't own the title, if they don't own the promissory note that proves that they own the house or the property. So a mortgage-backed security is one of those complex financial instruments, as they're called, that the financiers designed to turn loans for mortgages into stocks.
That's correct.
And Peter, you've been talking to people about this.
Right. Well, in the past, or traditionally, the banks would give somebody a loan to buy a house, and they would hold the loan for the duration of the mortgage, and which would be maybe 30 years. So they were very invested in making sure that the loans were supported by the income of the people taking out the mortgage. But recently, what they've been doing is they've been selling the mortgages to trust, and they pooled all these many mortgages together into a bundle, and then they sell them off to investors, and they sell them off to investors as AAA securities, even though in many cases they knew that they were subprime. And the problem is that when they do that, they have a electronic registry which is supposed to keep track of all these mortgages, and the problem is that the note and the mortgage have been separated, and it's hard to track who really owns it, and it's divided up into many investors. And so it's been a problem. They haven't been recording these changes of ownership of title in the local county register, which they're supposed to be doing. And so across the country, many of the county registrars are upset because their whole purpose is to keep track of a chain of title and making sure they know who owns the property in their county. So, and these trusts, these mortgage-backed securities, are controlled by what's called a pooling and service agreement. And it's in those agreements that control the ownership of it.
Yeah. So the way I understand it is when a bank sells off a mortgage as a stock, the bank gets paid for that mortgage. And then the bank is simply a servicing agency. And the reason that the bank can't modify the mortgage is because it doesn't own, it doesn't have title. Only the owners of a loan can modify a loan. And if it doesn't own the loan, it can't modify the loan. So that raises the whole issue of how can they foreclose if they can't modify. So I have an interesting sheet here that says, Fact 1, in order to foreclose on a property, a lender must hold the title to the promissory note. Fact 2, millions of loans have been securitized, sold to investors in investment pools. When they were sold to the investors, the lenders got paid for the loans. Fact 3, the bank no longer holds legal title to these securitized properties. So they're servicing the loan. Fact 4, the servicing bank does not have any legal recourse to foreclose on the property, but they try to foreclose and in many cases do anyway. Why? Because the public doesn't know about this, because many of the courts don't know about this. So this is what people are raising up as a key issue in this whole situation about foreclosures.
Yes, and if I might say, our state happens to be what they call a non-judicial state.
Yes.
So what that means is that the banks can just sell your home on the steps of the courthouse. They do not have to go through the courts whatsoever. The only recourse someone like myself has is to go hire an attorney, because this is very complex, and file a case in court, which can be very expensive. And needless to say, we're up against banks that have unlimited funds. So it makes it very challenging.
Yeah, and we've noticed, because we've been doing research on the foreclosures that are happening almost every day on the steps of the courthouse, and some at the Holiday Inn, and at least the ones on the steps of the courthouse, several of the agencies, the foreclosure servicing agencies that are selling these, foreclosing on these houses, are not even listed to do business with the Secretary of State. They're not bonded. There are all kinds of problems with just having companies foreclose without anyone overseeing whether or not they really even own the houses or the properties.
Right. And I mean, we have title laws to protect homeowners and to protect your interest in your property. And that's just the other point here, is that there's a reason for title laws to make sure that people know what they own. And there is millions of homes now that are what we call clouded title because of this.
Yes. And Peter, you've been helping people go through the county recorder's records when they're facing problems with their mortgage. Can you talk about that?
Right. Well, every time the mortgage is transferred to another entity, there's supposed to be records to show the assignment of the mortgages and recorded in the local county recorders, and they haven't been doing that. But what's happened is that many of the companies that have given the loans are now, because of the crash of the economy, many of the smaller ones have gone bankrupt. They're not existing anymore. but all of a sudden, maybe 5 years later, there's the assignments of the mortgages to Wells Fargo Bank or Bank of America. And the question is how is a company that's been defunct all of a sudden filing court documents? So it brings up the whole question of the robo-signing where there were many people with, they're just basically secretaries signing documents that they're supposed to be knowledgeable about and are testifying that they're true and genuine, and they don't have any basis for that. And so we've been finding signatures such as that in the assignment of mortgages and the substitution of trustees, which hands the power to foreclose from one entity to the next. So we're finding these in our county records.
Yes. That's what the whole chorus, "Show me the note," is all about. A lot of people are claiming that the banks don't have, and these foreclosure servicing agencies don't have the right to foreclose. So Billy, what happened when you found out that you had a mortgage-backed security, when you went away from that
Well,
meeting?
I decided that it was time to find a good attorney to help me explore the idea of taking Wells Fargo on to court in regards to this. So I found an attorney in Los Angeles. This is a very specialized area of law. So at the time, I think it's a new area that you need someone that really understands these issues. So I was fortunate enough to find, and we were fortunate enough to have the funds to be able to hire someone to help us with this. And so I found an attorney in Los Angeles. That was over a year ago, and we have been in court. Do you want me to go into the?
I'll ask you about the time when you went into court locally.
Yes.
There were two things.
Right.
One was you were requesting a restraining order to keep from being foreclosed. And the other was to bring a case against Wells Fargo because of these issues that we're talking about. You brought both
correct.
of them on the same day
That's correct.
to local court,
Yes.
thinking they were related.
That's correct.
Okay.
We were hoping to keep our house from being foreclosed on, meaning that hoping to keep it from being sold. And on the same day, the judge was to rule on the case that the TRO and the case that we had filed in court as a wrongful foreclosure. And on that day, the judge ruled against the TRO and said that the bank. Oh, I'm sorry, the temporary restraining order. So he said that the bank could go ahead and sell a property. But he also said that he had not read the case that we had filed and that he needed another week to read the case. So basically we had a judge rule that there was no reason to stop the foreclosure, but he hadn't really even read the case as to why we felt the foreclosure should be stopped. So that was a bit disheartening in court. And at that point, our attorney decided that there were reasons to file in federal court, and so we decided to go ahead and file in federal court and pull the case from the state court, and so that's what we did.
Right. And so you filed in state court.
In federal court.
In federal court. And when you went to federal court, the judge, my understanding is, ruled that 10 of your causes against Wells Fargo were valid and wanted to, or agreed to, continue that case.
That's correct. In November, it was quite exciting because what Wells Fargo did was, of course, go to the judge and tell him that this case should be dismissed and it was a frivolous lawsuit. And the judge ruled against Wells Fargo and denied dismissing the case. And that was in November. We are still, as I said, it's an ongoing case now in court. And it is definitely an uphill battle, and I'm hoping we can hold on to the case because it is very expensive.
Yes.
Not to mention the stress of 2 years of this.
Yes, and so your house has been foreclosed even though you have a federal lawsuit pending against Wells Fargo.
That's correct.
Right. So the bank did foreclose, and now is it eviction proceedings that have begun?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now I'm facing a court here. Again, we have to go back to the same judge, and I'm facing an eviction. I'm not sure of the hearing, but at any time now, and I'm not too optimistic on the outcome. But I know that we have good reason to be in court. But again, these judges are not listening to these cases very well.
So we are involved in helping Billy, but also Billy is raising this partly to let other people know what's going on with this whole complex process. So if you want to get involved in the Occupy Nevada County Foreclosure Defense Group, there are several ways that you can get involved with us. We have a Facebook page, Occupy Nevada County Foreclosure Defense. You can find us on Facebook. Peter, some other ways?
Well, there's also a website, occupynevadacounty.org, and then you can do .org/foreclosures, and you'll come to our website page there. And you could email me at petergalb@gmail.com. And how else? And that's pretty much the way to reach us. And I wanted to put into context the magnitude of the foreclosures in Nevada County. Since the beginning of 2008, there's been 4,000 foreclosures, nearly 4,000 foreclosures in Nevada County. And at the peak, at 2010, there were like 100 foreclosures a month, and now it's about 65 a month. So it's a huge number, and it's important to know that these are tradespeople, the construction workers, small business people, professionals who through the crash of the economy have lost their they had solid incomes when they took out the mortgages, but because of the crash of the economy, they're not any longer able to keep up with their mortgages.
Right. So in addition to supporting people who are going through foreclosure and eviction, we have spoken at Nevada City Council. We're planning to go to the Board of Supervisors. We've spoken with the sheriffs, the police department. We are making an appointment with the district attorney. We have a variety of other sources of people who are have positions of authority in Nevada County, and we are trying to exhaust every option to help people understand, but also to bring some justice for homeowners here in our county. There's also in California, just today, Kamala Harris announced something called the Homeowners Bill of Rights. There are several laws that are in Congress that are similar to the laws in Nevada, the law in Nevada that has reduced foreclosures by different estimates from 70 to 97% in the past year. So it's one of the things it would do is make it so that the things that happened to Billy would not be able to happen. In order to foreclose, you would have to prove that you owned the note, that you had the legal right to foreclose. You would not be able to do the dual track of loan modifications and then foreclosing right out from under people. And it would have other protections. So keep looking at the state laws that are coming through Congress that could perhaps provide relief for California homeowners.
And we're hoping possibly to have a move on the local level to get a local moratorium on foreclosures, at least until it can be straightened out, that to show that any company that comes to foreclose and take people's homes in Nevada County will show and show that their documents are actually legal and correct and proper.
And we are the Occupy Nevada County Foreclosure Defense Group. So we have an eviction response team. We have actually gone out a couple of times and will probably be called out again to witness to eviction proceedings that are happening, because we're working not just with victims of foreclosure, but many tenants who are being evicted, and many tenants who are being evicted from the homes that they were renting. one of my son's homes that was evicted has been vacant for 3 years. Now, he was not evicted. He was foreclosed. He moved. That home is still empty. We have a lot of empty houses here in Nevada County. We are glad that you're watching this and finding out about this. Please look on the internet. There are all kinds of resources. Occupy groups and other groups that are working for justice are doing so much. There's so much information coming. Many direct actions, groups that are going to Wells Fargo on the 23rd of April and the 24th to protest and even shut down the annual shareholders meeting. There are a variety of options for people who are concerned about this crisis, want to bring justice to both homeowners and tenants. There are many ways to get involved. Hope you'll join us.
That's a good place to start.
Jimmy is. I know it's Jimmy. Behind me. Keep walking towards Jimmy. Keep going. Get off the sidewalk, Phil. Get off the sidewalk. Right, keep going. Now make a turn.